I found a receipt from my husband's fishing trip that exposed his 8-month affair. Now he's jobless and blaming me for ruining his life. I never imagined I'd be in this situation. Aaron, 34M, and I, 32F, have been married for 8 years, together for 12. We met in college. I was a junior studying psychology, and he was a senior majoring in business. We hit it off at a mutual friends party, bonding over our shared love of 90s sitcoms and terrible puns. Our relationship moved quickly after that. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. After graduation, we moved to the city together. I started my career as a school counselor, while Aaron landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm. Those early years were tough but exciting. We were broke most of the time, living in a tiny studio apartment, but we were happy. We'd spend our weekends exploring the city, finding free events and cheap eats. It was during one of these adventures, at a free concert in the park, that Aaron proposed. It wasn't fancy, the ring was simple, and he stumbled over his words, but it was perfect for us. We got married a year later in a small ceremony with just our closest friends and family. Aaron's college buddies were his groomsmen, and my sister Emma, 36F, was my maid of honor. It was a beautiful day, full of laughter and love. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found my person so early in life. Fast forward to now, and we have 2 amazing kids, Mary, 6F, and Max, 4M. Mary is our little artist, always covered in paint or marker. She is Aaron's creativity and my stubbornness. Max is our cuddlebug, always ready with a hug and a silly joke. He has Aaron's easygoing nature and my curly hair. Our life hasn't been without challenges. We struggled with infertility for a couple of years before having Mary, which put a strain on our relationship. But we got through it together, supporting each other through the disappointments and eventually the joy of finally becoming parents. When Max came along 2 years later, our family felt complete. Aaron's career has taken off in recent years. He's now a senior account manager at his firm, which means longer hours and more stress, but also a comfortable lifestyle for our family. I cut back to part-time work when Mary was born, which was a joint decision we made to balance our careers and family life. Throughout our relationship, Aaron's annual fishing trip with his college buddies has been a constant. It started the summer after they graduated and has continued every year since. It's always been a week in July at a lake about 3 hours from our city. I've never had any reason to worry about these trips. Aaron would have always come back relaxed and full of funny stories about the guys' antics. That's why this year's trip felt so off. The day before he left, Aaron was unusually quiet. He kept checking his phone and seemed distracted. When I asked if everything was okay, he brushed it off, saying he was just stressed about a big project at work. I didn't push it, figuring he'd relax once he was out on the lake with his friends. But during the trip, Aaron's communication was sparse. Normally, he'd send me daily updates, pictures of their catches, funny stories about who fell in the lake or burned dinner. This time, I got maybe 2 brief texts a day, just saying he was having fun and missed us. No pictures, no stories. I tried not to read too much into it, telling myself he was probably just enjoying his time away from technology. When Aaron got back, things got even weirder. He was distant and irritable. He snapped at Mary for spilling her juice, which is very unlike him. He's usually the patient one with the kids. When I tried to talk to him about the trip, he gave vague answers and changed the subject. A few days after he returned, I was doing laundry and found a receipt in his pocket. It was for a fancy restaurant in a town about an hour away from where they were supposed to be fishing. The date on the receipt was right in the middle of his trip. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Why would they drive an hour for dinner when they always cook at the cabin? I confronted Aaron about it, and he got defensive. He claimed they had decided to drive to that town for a nice dinner one night, but it had slipped his mind to mention it. Something about his explanation didn't sit right with me. In all the years they've been doing this trip, they've never gone out for a fancy dinner. It was always about roughing it, cooking over the campfire, and drinking cheap beer. That night, while Aaron was in the shower, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked his phone. What I found made my heart sink. There were dozens of messages between Aaron and someone saved as Jay in his contacts. The messages were flirty and suggestive, talking about how much fun they had together, and how they couldn't wait to see each other again. There were references to inside jokes I didn't understand and plans for future meetups. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This wasn't just a one-time thing. These messages went back months. I took screenshots and sent them to myself, then put the phone back exactly where I found it. I didn't confront Aaron right away. I needed time to process and figure out what to do. The next day, I called my best friend, Sarah, 33F. Sarah and I have been friends since high school. She was there for me through all my relationship milestones with Aaron, our first date, our engagement, our wedding. She was even in the delivery room when Mary was born. I told her everything, my voice shaking as I relayed what I had discovered. Sarah was furious on my behalf. She offered to let me and the kids stay with her if needed. I appreciated her support, but I wasn't ready to make any drastic moves yet. I spent the next few days observing Aaron, trying to catch him in a lie. He must have sensed something was up because he started being overly affectionate, bringing me flowers and offering to take the kids out so I could have some alone time. It felt like he was overcompensating, which only made me more suspicious. Finally, a week after discovering the messages, I couldn't take it anymore. I sat Aaron down after we put the kids to bed and laid it all out. I showed him the screenshots and asked for an explanation. I watched as the color drained from his face. He stuttered for a bit before admitting that Jay was Jenny, 29F, a new colleague at work. He swore that nothing physical had happened, that they had just been flirting and it got out of hand. He said he met her for dinner that night during the fishing trip because she happened to be in the area visiting family. I didn't buy it. The messages I saw suggested a much deeper involvement. When I pressed him on this, he broke down and confessed that yes, they had slept together that night. He swore it was a one-time thing, that he regretted it immediately, and that it would never happen again. I was devastated. This was the man I had built my life with, the father of my children. How could he do this to us? I asked Aaron to sleep on the couch that night. I needed space to think. The next morning, I called my sister Emma and asked if she could take the kids for a few days. I told her Aaron and I were having some issues and needed time to work things out. She agreed without pressing for details, but I could hear the concern in her voice. Now, I'm sitting here, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wants to believe Aaron, to try and work things out for the sake of our family. We've been through so much together, the struggles of early adulthood, the joy of starting our family, the challenges of balancing careers and parenthood. Can I really throw all of that away? But another part of me is furious and heartbroken. How can I ever trust him again? Every business trip, every late night at the office, every text message, will I always be wondering if he's lying to me? And what about Jenny? They work together. How can I believe nothing will happen again when they see each other every day? I keep thinking back to all the times in recent months when Aaron was working late or had to go in on weekends for a big project. Were those lies too? Was he with her? I'm not sure what I'm looking for here. Advice? Support? Maybe just a place to vent. If you've been through something similar, how did you handle it? Did you stay or leave? How did you move forward, either way? How did you explain it to your kids if you decided to separate? I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down, and I'm not sure which way is up anymore. The life I thought I had, the future I had planned, it all feels like it's crumbling around me. How do I even begin to pick up the pieces? Update 1, it's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your comments and messages have been a lifeline during this difficult time. After my initial post, I spent a few days thinking hard about my next steps. I realized that regardless of whether I decided to stay with Aaron or not, I needed to protect myself and my children. So, I made an appointment with a lawyer to understand my rights and options. The lawyer, a kind but no-nonsense woman named Patricia, advised me to gather all our financial documents and make copies. She also suggested I open a separate bank account in my name only. I did both of these things without Aaron's knowledge. It felt sneaky, but Patricia assured me it was a necessary precaution. Going through our financial documents was an eye-opening experience. I discovered several large withdrawals from our joint account over the past few months that I couldn't account for. When I asked Aaron about them, he claimed they were for a surprise he was planning for our upcoming anniversary. Given everything that had happened, I found this hard to believe. During this time, Aaron was trying hard to make amends. He was being extra attentive, offering to do all the housework, and constantly asking what he could do to fix things. But every time I looked at him, all I could see was his betrayal. The man who had been my rock for over a decade now felt like a stranger. About a week after my post, I decided to do some digging. I used the phone number I had for Jay and did a reverse lookup online. It led me to Jenny's social media profiles. There were several photos of Jenny at various work events over the past 6 months. Aaron was in many of these photos, always standing close to Jenny, often with his arm around her. In one photo from 3 months ago, they were at a bar, and Aaron wasn't wearing his wedding ring. I also found comments from Jenny on Aaron's posts going back almost a year, all flirty and suggestive. It was clear that this wasn't a one-time thing as Aaron had claimed. This had been going on for months. As I scrolled through the photos and comments, memories from the past year started to take on new meanings. The night Aaron missed Max's preschool play because of a work emergency, was he really with Jenny? The weekend business trip that got extended at the last minute, was that a lie too? It felt like every happy memory from the past year was now tainted with doubt. Armed with this new information, I confronted Aaron again. At first, he tried to downplay it, saying they were just work friends and the photos didn't mean anything. But when I showed him the photo without his wedding ring, he crumbled. Aaron confessed that he and Jenny had been having an affair for the past 8 months. It started as innocent flirting at work, then escalated to drinks after work, and finally became physical about 6 months ago. The fishing trip was just the latest in a series of meetups they had arranged. I was beyond furious. Not only had Aaron cheated, but he had lied to my face repeatedly, even when given the chance to come clean. I told him to pack a bag and leave. He begged and pleaded, promising to end things with Jenny and go to couples counseling. But I stood firm. I needed him out of the house. Aaron left to stay with his brother. I called Emma and asked her to bring the kids home. When they arrived, I sat them down and explained, in age-appropriate terms, that Daddy had done something that hurt Mommy very much, and he needed to live somewhere else for a while. Mary cried, asking if it was her fault, which broke my heart. Max seemed confused but was more concerned about whether he could still have his playdate with his best friend the next day. I did my best to reassure them that both Daddy and I still loved them very much, and that none of this was their fault. The next day, I went back to Patricia and started the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew I could never trust Aaron again. The level of deception, carried out over months, was too much to come back from. Patricia is helping me figure out custody arrangements and division of assets. I also reached out to HR at Aaron's company to inform them of the situation. I'm not sure what, if any, action they'll take, but I felt they should know about the inappropriate relationship between coworkers. Telling our friends and family was one of the hardest parts. Most have been supportive, although some were shocked. We were always the couple that seemed to have it all together. Aaron's parents are upset and have been pressuring me to give him another chance for the sake of the children. I had to firmly tell them that my decision was final and ask them to respect that. Right now, I'm focusing on taking care of myself and the kids. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. She's been helping me work through my anger and grief, and giving me tools to support the kids through this transition. Financially, things are tight. I'm back to working full-time, which means juggling work and single parenthood. It's exhausting, but also empowering in a way. I'm rediscovering parts of myself that had taken a backseat during my marriage. I'm still angry and hurt, but I'm also starting to feel a sense of relief. The uncertainty is gone, and I know what I need to do now. It's going to be a long road, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on healing and being the best mom I can be for Mary and Max. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and things have been intense, to say the least. The divorce proceedings are underway. Aaron initially tried to contest it, but after I showed him all the evidence I had gathered, including those social media posts, he realized he didn't have a leg to stand on. We're now working on hammering out the details of asset division and custody arrangements. Speaking of custody, that's been one of the hardest parts. We've agreed on joint custody for now, with the kids staying with me during the week and with Aaron every other weekend. The first few handoffs were awkward and tense. Mary has been having a hard time with the changes and has been acting out at school. Her teacher called me in for a conference last week because Mary had a meltdown in class when another kid mentioned their parents were getting divorced. We've started her in therapy to help her cope. Max, on the other hand, seems to be adjusting better, though he's become very clingy when it's time for Aaron to pick them up. On the work front, things took an unexpected turn. Aaron lost his job. Apparently, after I contacted HR, they conducted an investigation and found that both Aaron and Jenny had violated company policies. They were both let go. Aaron was furious about this and blamed me for ruining his life. We had a heated argument where I reminded him that he did that all on his own. It was the first time I've ever seen Aaron truly angry, and it was honestly a bit scary. Aaron's job loss has had significant financial implications for us. With his income gone, I can't afford to keep our house. I'm in the process of selling it and looking for a smaller place for me and the kids. It's stressful, but I'm trying to see it as a fresh start. The kids are upset about leaving the only home they've known, especially Mary. I've been trying to get them excited about the move by involving them in the house hunting process and letting them have a say in how we'll decorate their new rooms. My friends and family have been incredibly supportive. Sarah has been coming over regularly to help with the kids and just to provide moral support. She's been a godsend, especially on the days when everything feels overwhelming. Emma has been a rock, always available to listen when I need to vent. She's also been helping me navigate the legal aspects of the divorce, as she went through one herself a few years ago. I ran into Jenny at the grocery store last week. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. She tried to apologize, saying she never meant to hurt anyone. I told her that intentions don't matter when the result is a broken family, and walked away. It felt good to say my piece and leave her standing there. Later, I found out from a mutual acquaintance that Jenny has been telling people that Aaron had told her he was separated when they started their affair. I don't know if that's true or not, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. Aaron's parents are still giving me a hard time. They've been telling the kids that mommy is being mean to daddy and that's why he can't live with us anymore. I've had to have several conversations with the kids to counteract this narrative. It's exhausting and infuriating. I finally had to tell Aaron that if his parents didn't stop, I would have to reconsider letting them see the kids unsupervised. On a more positive note, I've started taking a yoga class twice a week. It's been great for managing stress and giving me some much-needed me time. I've also joined a support group for divorced parents, which has been helpful in navigating this new reality. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in this journey, and hearing others' stories has given me perspective on my own situation. There are still tough days where I feel overwhelmed by it all. Last week, I had a mini breakdown when I realized I had to figure out how to fix a leaky faucet, something Aaron always handled. But there are also days where I feel strong and confident in my decision. I'm learning to take it one day at a time and to celebrate small victories, like successfully assembling a bookshelf for Mary's room all by myself. As for Aaron, he's found a new job, though it's a step down from his previous position. He seems to be struggling with the reality of our situation. Sometimes he's cooperative and focused on the kids, other times he's bitter and difficult to deal with. I'm trying to maintain a civil relationship for the sake of our children, but it's challenging. For now, I'm focused on creating a stable, loving environment for Mary and Max. They're my priority, and seeing their resilience in the face of all these changes gives me strength. We're slowly finding our new normal, and while it's not always easy, I'm hopeful for our future. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and 6 months since this whole ordeal began. A lot has changed, and I'm finally starting to feel like I'm finding my feet in this new life. The divorce was finalized last month. It was a surreal experience, sitting in that courtroom and officially ending my marriage. But it also felt like closing a chapter and being able to truly move forward. The judge approved our custody arrangement and asset division. It wasn't a perfect outcome for either of us, but it was fair. I've moved into a new apartment with the kids. It's smaller than our old house, but it's in a great school district and has a nice little park nearby. The kids seem to be adjusting well to the new space. We've made it a project to decorate their rooms exactly how they want, which has helped them feel more at home. Mary chose a space theme for her room, while Max went for a dinosaur motif. Mary is doing much better. The therapy has really helped her process her emotions, and her acting out at school has decreased significantly. Her teacher recently told me that she's back to her old self, participating in class and playing with her friends again. Max, being younger, seems to have adapted more easily, although he still sometimes asks when Daddy is coming home to stay. These moments are tough, but I'm getting better at explaining things in a way he can understand. Aaron and I have managed to establish a more civil co-parenting relationship. It's not friendly, but we're able to communicate about the kids without it turning into an argument. He's been consistent with his visitations and child support payments, which I'm grateful for. We've even managed to attend a few of Mary's school events together without any drama. On the work front, I got a promotion at work. With everything going on in my personal life, I threw myself into my job, and it paid off. I'm now heading up a new counseling program at the school. The increased income has been a huge help in managing the new financial reality of being a single mom. I've started dating again, very casually. Just coffee dates here and there. It feels strange and exciting at the same time. I'm not looking for anything serious right now, but it's nice to be reminded that there's life after divorce. Sarah set me up with a friend of hers, and while there wasn't a romantic spark, we had a nice time and I felt proud of myself for putting myself out there. Aaron, from what I hear from mutual friends, is still single. Apparently, things with Jenny fizzled out quickly after they both lost their jobs. He's working at a new company now, in a slightly lower position than he had before. I try not to focus too much on what he's doing, but it's hard when the kids come home from his place and share bits of information. Looking back over the past 6 months, I'm amazed at how much has changed. There were moments when I thought I wouldn't be able to get through this, but here I am. I'm proud of myself for staying strong for my kids and for not compromising my self-respect. To anyone going through something similar, I want to say, it gets better. It's not easy, and there will be tough days, but you're stronger than you think. Don't be afraid to lean on your support system and to put yourself first sometimes. As for me, I'm looking forward to the future for the first time in a long while. I don't know what it holds, but I know I'll face it with the strength and resilience I've discovered in myself through this journey. For now, I'm focusing on my kids, my career, and rediscovering who I am outside of being Aaron's wife. It's scary, but also exciting. Here's to new beginnings.